Deadpool and Moon Knight are the two most famous, most insane mercenaries in Marvel Comics, and both are pretty much confirmed to make an appearance in the MCU sometime in the future. Moon Knight is definitely on his way with his own Disney Plus show confirmed, while you just know Ryan Reynolds has Disney executives locked in a boardroom somewhere and won't let them out until they figure out how to get Deadpool into the MCU. And since both are so similar yet so different, I think the time is right to see a Deadpool vs Moon Knight battle royale. Which merc is gonna come out on top? Let's get into that right now. Deadpool has become a household name thanks to Ryan Reynolds' iconic portrayal of Wade Wilson, but the same can't be said for Moon Knight. Though that's all going to change in the future, Moon Knight has the potential to be just as popular a character as Deadpool for both similar and different reasons. And let's be honest, that's probably going to make Deadpool pretty upset. In his mind, there can be only room for one quirky merc. But sorry Deadpool, I think audiences are going to love the zany uniqueness of Moon Knight just as much as they love you. Maybe that's what's going to lead them to fight. Deadpool is upset that another eccentric merc is getting his own Disney Plus show before Deadpool gets to be in the MCU, so Deadpool is out for revenge. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? So you basically know Deadpool, but you may not know Moon Knight or how they're similar and different. Both of them are unique characters with questionable sanity. But while we find it funny when Deadpool breaks the fourth wall to talk to us or references the fact that he's in a comic book, Moon Knight is on a completely different level when it comes to mental stability. Moon Knight's real name is Mark Spector. Sort of. I'll explain. He suffers from DID, which is dissociative identity disorder. It's a mental condition that causes people's minds to split into multiple distinct personalities. In the comics, Mark generally has three distinct personalities. There's Mark Spector, who's basically the Moon Knight persona. There's Stephen Grant, the millionaire entrepreneur that generally funds Moon Knight's superhero activities and overall decent guy. And then there's Jake Lockley, who's the more violent personality that works as a cab driver and deals with a lot of street-level people in order to get Moon Knight his connections and tips. Just having a character with three separate personalities is a lot. But wait, there's more. In his head, Mark also probably has the voice of the Egyptian moon god, Khonshu, guiding and talking to him and pushing him to seek justice against criminals. How did that happen? Well, while he was working as a mercenary in Egypt, he was mortally wounded and placed near an idol of Khonshu. There, his spirit had an encounter with Khonshu, who promised to save his life in exchange for his service. He suddenly recovered from his injury, and that's what led him to develop these three personalities and become the vigilante known as Moon Knight. But there are so many big questions with Moon Knight. On one hand, if we believe that the Egyptian god Khonshu is actually speaking to him, is that why he only looks like he has dissociative identity disorder? Is the god speaking through Mark warping the man's mind so it only looks like he's mentally unstable? Or is it a darker reason? Is the Egyptian god he supposedly hears just another aspect of Mark's delusions? The best Moon Knight stories are the ones that challenge this notion, and make you question what's true and what's not true. So I figured Deadpool would look at this complicated and complex character and just get mad for the potentially game-changing MCU Disney Plus show he's going to deliver, and seek out a fight. But let me tell you, even though Deadpool is an insanely powerful mercenary with a few unpredictable tricks up his sleeve, it's not going to be an easy fight. I think Moon Knight would be one of the most unique adversaries that Deadpool has ever faced. You remember the scene in the first Deadpool where Wade says he wears a red suit so bad guys won't see him bleed? Well, Moon Knight has similar reasoning for his all-white costume. He wears white because he wants his enemies to know he's coming. Sorry Wade, if this was just a reasoning for the colors in our costume battle, then Moon Knight would win hands down. Moon Knight is just the type of hero who allows himself to get hit because he doesn't want to waste time blocking. How do you fight someone like that? Only a crazy person would take him on. Oh, that's right, Deadpool is fighting him. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's because Deadpool has one of the best superpowers in the entire Marvel library. He has an extraordinary healing ability. You can cut, punch, break, bend, behead, burn, melt, chop, maim, all that and more to Deadpool. And after some time, he'll be right back in front of you, throwing some goofy pop culture reference at you, and probably shoving chimichangas in his face. He'll always come back, so first and foremost, this is a battle of wills. Many opponents might start with the upper hand on Deadpool, only for the merc to come back good as new. This can send an opponent into either a rage that makes him sloppy, or just completely give up out of fear. But Moon Knight won't give up. If the god Khonshu is speaking to Moon Knight and telling him that Deadpool needs to be stopped, then it doesn't matter how long it takes. Moon Knight will do whatever he can and will not stop. Weapons-wise, both are highly skilled with a huge arsenal of weapons. but I think the overall world they're in might make this a fairer fight. What do I mean? Deadpool is normally not afraid to use guns or really brutal weapons in order to conquer his foes. But you have to remember, this is taking place in the MCU. As much as Deadpool wants to make a bloody mess of Moon Knight, he can't just pull out his guns and start blasting. In Deadpool's mind, that's the quickest way to get a petition about him in the real world started, saying he's too violent and how a bunch of people want him removed from the MCU completely. Deadpool doesn't want that, he just got there. So his weapons will be non-lethal, and this will put him more in line with Moon Knight, who's a mercenary that's trained in almost every weapon imaginable, but tends to stick to non-lethal force like darts, grappling hooks, nunchaku, gold onks, etc. If they're moon-shaped, then chances are Moon Knight loves them and uses them to fight crime. Plus, if you add things like his incredibly strong suit of armor and his fancy items like his glider, then you got someone who's probably better equipped than Deadpool. Deadpool is a great, unpredictable fighter. The way his fractured mind works, coupled with the fact that his healing factor helps him not really fear injury or death, and you got yourself the wildest fighter in Marvel. You know the villain Taskmaster, the one whose whole thing is mimicking the hero's fighting styles and then using that to predict their movement and attacks? Yeah, that doesn't work on Deadpool. When Taskmaster fights Deadpool, Deadpool is so unpredictable and so random that his fighting style cannot be analyzed. What could possibly fight something like that? Well, how about someone who's one of the best hand-to-hand combat fighters in the world? Mark Spector was a former heavyweight boxing champion before he became a military mercenary, so you know he knows how to throw down. So no matter how quirky and eccentric both of them are, Deadpool might be in over his head when he comes up against the almost unstoppable Moon Knight in hand-to-hand combat. I'm not saying Deadpool is a slouch in the hand-to-hand combat department, but it's just a little different when you have the voice of a god inside you telling you to win at all costs, compared to when you have a voice in your head telling you to put glue in Spider-Man's shoes. The focus levels are just different, and I think ultimately that will be Deadpool's downfall. And strictly because this is hypothetically taking place in the MCU, Moon Knight wins. Sorry, Wade. Is this going to be a close battle? I think absolutely. But you have to take the setting into consideration, and what Deadpool would need to do to win and overcome Moon Knight just wouldn't be possible in that setting. The big question for the MCU is whether we're ever going to actually get to see these characters face off. As mentioned, Moon Knight is basically a guarantee with his Disney Plus show currently in development. But obviously Deadpool is in a much more difficult position. With the Fox merger, it's going to be relatively easy to reboot and reincorporate the X-Men going forward, but it's not that same thing for Deadpool. Wade deserves a foul-mouthed, bloody adventure for his next film, and yet that doesn't fit with the Disney brand. You can either bring Deadpool in and heavily saturate him into a PG-13 rating, which could work and be funny only if Deadpool recognizes he's now in a PG-13 movie, and is surprised by the beeps and censors that happen when he tries to curse. Although that would be awesome to see, it just means a lot of complicated things for the future of the MCU, and the character. So maybe the best way to ease him in is by making him fight someone like Moon Knight. If Deadpool is the active antagonist in Moon Knight's series, then maybe that could lead to a greater team-up in a future movie. Because let's face it, this video is all about these two fighting, but really they would make the best mercenary vigilante team in the world. Can you just imagine for a second what it would be like being a bank robber and running into both Deadpool and Moon Knight? You'd hear the one dressed in all white start talking directly to the moon, while the one in red looks like he's carrying out an entire conversation with different people in his head. Yeah, definitely the best team up ever. These two definitely have the capacity to bring out the best in one another, even if they do end up fighting. And I think that's actually better in the long run for each character. If they fight, Moon Knight has to win in order to set Deadpool on the proper path. Throughout this whole video, I've been saying that Deadpool is at a disadvantage in the MCU because he can't rely on his usual bloody tricks. A loss to Moon Knight would help Wade realize that he needs to train to fit in this new world. Just picture this for a second. Say Moon Knight's own show has a confrontation with Deadpool where confused Wade can't win against Moon Knight due to the PG-13 restrictions. Then that leaves Deadpool's next movie as sort of a revamp, where Deadpool is still hurting from that loss against Moon Knight, and embarks on a new training regimen to become the greatest PG-13 hero in the MCU. Come on, doesn't that sound awesome? So again, for that reason and so many others, Moon Knight would win the fight. Who do you think would win in a fight between Deadpool and Moon Knight? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button for more awesome CBR content like this. Thanks for watching, see you next time.